In this video, I'm going to talk about the new Kill Team Annual 2019 and whether it's something you got to rush out and purchase. So I got a copy of the new book day before Thanksgiving. I'm filming this the day after Thanksgiving, and you're seeing it at least 2 days after Thanksgiving. So it's a Saturday. So this book is going on pre-order today, and it is, to some degree, it's been described basically kind of as like a chapter approved, but for Kill Team. So for those of you that don't know, chapter approved is a yearly book that they put out that updates certain things in Warhammer 40K. They also have the General's Handbook, which is the same type of thing, and it is for our friends over in Age of Sigmar land. They are yearly books that in the other two previous things that I've just mentioned, the chapter approved and the General's Handbook, they generally have points increases, changes in points, points decreases, things like that, that helps to sort of tweak the game so that you can maybe make lists that are a little bit more evenly balanced. When you're trying to, both people are playing, let's say, 1,000-point game of Age of Sigmar, it's best if every point is as close to being balanced as we can make it, in an imperfect world. But those books have been coming out now for both of those systems for a while, and this is the new one, 2019, for Kill Team, because 2018 is when Kill Team came out last summer. So we can probably expect a 2020 of this end of next year as well. So you're probably asking, well, Uncle Adam, I got to go rush right out and get this book because of the points changes and everything like that, so that my points lists are all up to date. And as far as I can tell, I don't really think so. I went through this entire book, and they have an entire section on all the points, so I can find them here. It starts with obviously the Astartes and goes through all the different points and all the different stuff for the weapons, melee weapons, range weapons, all that different type of stuff, all the different figures that are in there, also elites, also commanders. So it's all in here. But when I went through the original core book and matched points to this book, every single point was exactly the same, except for the 3 melee weapons that the orcs have. Each of those weapons in this new book was a point more. So I thought, so literally nothing else changed from the core book except for those 3 things. But then when I was looking in the Elites book, I noticed if you look at the Ort section of the Elites book, those bump ups in points costs had already happened back when Elites came out. So it's not new. What they talk about in the front part of this book here is they call this the collated points values. So you can find all of the points in one book instead of the 3 books that I've got stacked over there, which would be the core book, the elite book, and the commander's book. So this has got all the points in a place that's very easy for you to find, which is cool. It's basically a nice to have, but it's not like you're gonna have to go through here and go, oh my, on this list, this thing changed, and on this, this got cheaper, that got more expensive. It seems as if the points really haven't just changed. They've just all been put in one big spot. And it is very convenient, honestly, to have not only all the different models across the different books, but also all the different weapons. So you get your Combi Plasma here, and that's 4 points. But if the Captain and Terminator armor takes it, it's 5 points. And if the Chaplain and Terminator armor takes it, it's 5 points. And that would be reflected in each of those figures' special pages on whatever book they're in. But now they're all right here, and it's pretty easy to find, which is sort of a nice thing to have. So what else is in the new book? Well, right up in the front, there's a section about creating your own specialism. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. That's going to be really interesting to see how they did it to make it so that the points are all equal and everything works out well. I started just immediately having some really cool ideas in my head for creating my own specialism. And then I noticed right here, it says it's for open play. It's not for narrative play or match play. So sadly, I don't play a lot of open play. So this whole section for me, though very interesting and pretty in-depth, and goes on for, 6, 7, 8 pages. Here's an entire section of abilities options at tier 3. Here's your blank specialism sheet so you can mark it all down. I'm probably not going to pay attention to any of this, sadly, because it's really only for open play. Now, I understand it would have been probably very, very difficult for them to come up with some sort of way to make it so that these could be used in match play or narrative play. I understand that. But I kind of got my hopes up, and it wasn't until I read that first paragraph all the way through and found the words open play there that I was like, oh, well, That's a little bit of a bummer. But that's the first thing that they lead off with in the book. Then they start moving into a narrative play section. And the thing that's interesting about this book is that they've got a lot of different missions now. So one of the big benefits that you don't have in anything else, any of the other books or anything, is all of these missions. And the thing that's so interesting about the missions is that they are all matched to an army. So if you're going to play this narrative play mission, this is the first one in the book, and it's called Break Their Will. One amongst two players, one of them has to be playing Adeptus Astartes in this situation, and the other one can play whatever. And then all the information is in there for that one. And then over here, we've got another Astartes, and then over here, we've got Death Watch, and then we've got Astra Militarum, and they kind of just go down the list. There's your Mechanicus, there's your two Mechanicus. Some armies get two of missions, and some armies only get one. The thing that I thought was really interesting is as I was going through this, there are new armies that are in this book that don't get any. And I'll get to those guys in a bit. But those new armies don't get any specially named missions or, like here's Cruel Intent for the Drakari, which kind of makes sense with Drakari because they're mean and they like being mean. But here's an entire narrative play thing for it and everything, which is really cool. Necrons have Mind Shackle Abduction, which is also a cool thing. And I like the fact that they are making new missions, but they're making them specific for certain armies. And I think that's really kind of a neat thing. Sometimes, like I said, here you got two for Orcs, Demegapire and Wrecking Spree. But you only got one for Tau. And then over here you got Tyranids. So there's a whole section, Genestealer Cults get two. There's a whole section in here for new narrative play scenarios, which is really cool. And then we move directly into matched play. And again, we go directly into scenarios. And again, they are matched directly to armies. So you've got a lot of new scenarios in this book, which is always kind of a fun thing about the chapter approved for 40K and for the General's Handbook. People in the past I've heard say, well, if I buy the General's Handbook 2017 or 2018 or whatever, well, when 2019 book comes out, 2018 book is useless. And I've always said, well, no, because it's filled with a bunch of scenarios. The point costs are now no longer valid, technically, because the point costs are the new book. But the scenarios are all still a lot of fun to play, and you've got a whole book full of those special things, which I think is cool. And this book is chock full of the scenarios. So if you have been running out of scenarios to play and not sure what to do, this might not be a bad, pickup once it hits the store shelves. So like I said, there are also some new armies in here. Now, they're not exactly new. If you've been keeping up with or cherry picking to some degree like I do, keeping up with your episodes, issues, whatever, of White Dwarf, you've probably seen a bunch of these armies already in there, except for one of them. So in here, after the all the scenarios and then the points collation area that's got all the points for all of the different things and all of the different books, you get into data sheets. So we start immediately talking about Kroot Mercenaries. Now, Kroot Mercenaries were released in a White Dwarf earlier in 2019, I think. I don't believe it was 2018. And I picked up that copy of that White Dwarf. And if you've missed it, well, now here's another reason to pick up the book. But it's got all the information that was in the White Dwarf. The Carnivores, the Hounds, the Krutox Riders, all that stuff. And then we move right into Chaos Demons. And Chaos Demons, again, this was also in I think a summer issue this year of White Dwarf. So all of the Chaos Demon information that you need in there, including, all your cool demonic use names, and then, tactics and all that jazz. Bloodletter, Demonette, Horrors, all that stuff, Plague Bearers. And then you get into, this is interesting. This obviously Heretic Astartes has been around for a while, but they have changed the base kind of bog standard Chaos Space Marine. The only thing that they really did, as I looked through this, because I'm a Chaos player myself, it's one of my armies, is they added that the right here, the Chaos Space Marine gunner in your kill team may replace their bolt gun with a heavy bolter, autocannon, or missile launcher. That autocannon and missile launcher are new. I never got to take those before. The only heavy weapon you ever got was the heavy bolter. And the aspiring champion may replace their bolt pistol with a plasma pistol. That's standard. When they may also replace their bolt gun with a chain sword, which was also standard. Chain axe, which is new. Power sword, power sword's old. Power maul, power axe, also new. And power fist, which I think was old. So they've added a little bit more to the Chaos Space Marines. So they put them in this new data sheets section. But otherwise, there's not really any differences. The point changes and stuff like that. There's nothing really there. But they've got all the, the rules for the different guns and all that jazz. When you get into the Adeptus Astartes, which again is not a new army, but has a lot of new groups in it, you've got a lot of the models like from Shadow Spear and stuff like that. They basically said that this section replaces everything that's in the current core book. So you've got the Incursor, the Illuminator, the Infiltrator, Reaver we've had for a long time. You've also got the Intercessor in here, which we've also had for a long time, Lieutenant and Phobos armor, that kind of jazz. What I find interesting is that they don't have TAC Marines or Scouts in here. So that's a little odd. And I don't know, I'm sure you can still take them, but they did say at the top here, let me just double check. Datasheets included in this section replace those in previous publications. So I'm assuming each datasheet, so this one replaces the intercessors on the other book, not this entire section replaces the other section. So you're probably still fine. They just didn't bother to update the, the tactical marines. They didn't update the scouts. I don't know that anyone's surprised by that. I'm pretty sure they're on their way out, and I know that will make much gnashing of teeth, but that's kind of the way it goes. This is totally new here. This is your Adeptus Sororitas, which I'll always get wrong. It's Sisters of Battle. So I did a video about the Sisters of Battle army set that came out, the limited edition one that came out and disappeared very quickly a couple of weeks back. Ciao. And I'll be using some of those in my Adeptus ladies, Sisters of Battle list. And so you've got your Battle Sisters, which includes your Sister Gunners and your Sister Superior. You can take one Sister Superior, of course. You can take two Gunners. It's kind of the bog standard. You can take one Sister Repentia, which is kind of interesting. I'm trying to figure from that army set box which one of the one I'm going to build and paint for my army list. I think that'll be fun. You can take Arcoflagellants, and you can take a Canoness, although she's a commander. And you can also take the Repentia Superior, also a commander. So they've got now finally the rules for Kill Team. And then, of course, they also have, I think they've got also tactics and stuff, maybe. Yeah, and then there's the tactic, everything you can use for those as well, and the different command points that go along with it. So that's very cool, and I'm glad to see that information. I'm trying to hold off a little bit right now, but I'm going to be building a list soon for these ladies so that I can put them onto my kill team. They then get into the Blackstone Fortress stuff, which I think is really kind of cool, to put all of this in one spot and to kind of do the updates there. This stuff kind of, again, replaces the stuff that came in the original Blackstone Fortress PDF that you could get after Blackstone Fortress came out so that you could use those models in Kill Team. It did not come in the original box when you bought it. Those were always called beta rules, and these are the new rules. So if you've been playing the beta rules with Blackstone Fortress figures in your Kill Team, this is now the new real rules, and that might be another reason why you might want to buy this book. It's also got updates in it for Servants of the Abyss, obviously, also from Blackstone Fortress. It's got updates in it for about how to use the dreaded Amble in Kill Team, which I think is really kind of a cool idea. I might pick one up now. I wasn't really planning on it before because I really only found use for it in Blackstone Fortress, which I wasn't really playing Blackstone Fortress. I just really wanted the models. Now that I can play it here in Kill Team, I like that. And the fact that it's not controlled by either player, it's kind of randomly moving around. It's got all the rules for that and the information that goes along with it. I think that's very cool. It gets into some other stuff about new tactics and strategies and some psychic stuff and things like that too in the back of the book here, which is kind of interesting. There's a lot of that stuff. So having these kind of updated bits can also be sort of helpful and nice if you're into that. And it goes on and on and on because there's a lot of different armies that goes through. And then it pretty much comes to the end of the book. And these different tactics and things like that are all that's in here. So the question you have to ask yourself is, well, do I need to go out and pick up this book right away when it comes out? Because I like to play Kill Team. It kind of depends. If you are a tournament player, a competitive player who goes to tournaments at your local store or at conventions or wherever, you're probably going to need to pick it up. Not because, again, there's any new points or anything like that particularly, but there are some specific things like some tactic stuff, like the changes to some of the like the chaos changes and things like that you might want to have access to. So that's kind of important. If you are kind of tired of running the same old, scenarios over and over again in your narrative play or your matched play, then this book is an auto buy because it's going to have so much extra stuff in there. And they're all very kind of interestingly designed specifically towards one of the two factions. So, you've got one that's this scenario is for orcs and then whoever the orcs are fighting against. And so that's a really cool thing. Again, like I said, I kind of wish that they would have made some scenarios in here for Sisters of Battle, for Chaos Demons, and for the other one, Kroot. That would have been kind of cool, but they kind of left them out in the lurch, which is a little bit of a bummer. But it's a decent book. It's not a necessity, in my opinion. If you just like to have lots of cool scenarios and you like to have all the most updated rules for every army and things like that, yeah. But if you've been playing Kill Team amongst your friends for a while and you guys are having a good time with it, I don't think there's really anything in here that you have to rush out and pick up. If one person in your group maybe picked it up and said, yeah, this has got some cool scenarios and whatnot, then, that's maybe going to help you out. This is not something, and I know a lot of times when these types of books come out, a lot of players immediately get angry and say, well, now there's another thing I got to buy. I'm not telling you got to buy this. I'm going to tell you that if you want some new scenarios and you want some new armies and you want to play Sisters, then you got to buy this because that's where the things are. But if you are basically having a good time with your friends playing Kill Team, the normal core, even some of the elite stuff, and even if you get into commanders and things like that, this book has got information that will work with that stuff, but it's basically a collation of the points and the values and a lot of that stuff, so you don't have to dig through book after book when you're building a list. And that's convenient, but it's not a necessity.